or whatever race you were, it didn't matter, but he just threw this huge feast. A feast to me sounds like churrasco, you gotta get some ramen in there, you gotta get some of that good food. And then there was like a limited amount. It says here that the king said that there was no compulsion. And I looked up because I don't really know what that meant. And it says the action or state of forcing or being forced to do something or constraint. So they had like a limited amount of wine or whatever, so they got like pretty tight. And then after he asked his wife, Queen Vashti, to like come out and show everyone her beauty. And I like to think of her as Pauline, She was like, no, I don't want to go. She like refused. She didn't want to go, whatever. And then the king was like so mad. He's like, oh, you're never gonna be like in front of my face ever again. Get out of my kingdom. You're like whatever. And then after he calls for all the provinces and princes who lived in every country or whatever to bring every fine and fair young virgin to him, so he could choose like a new queen to rule. And then he sees a fully dressed up, like he wants them fully dressed up with cosmetics and everything, like he wants them to put like a beauty shop so they can be like amazing for him, like he wants them prepared, all right? And then that's where Esther comes in. And then before I tell you about Esther, I need to tell you about her uncle. And her uncle was a Jew who was a captive from Jerusalem when Babylon had fallen. And that was like the place where all the Jews lived back then. And then this guy named Mordecai, he was a Jew, and Esther was pretty much like his daughter because she had no mother or father. And then after she was sent to this beauty camp, she was like presented to the king, like they all had their turn to be presented or whatever. And then the king chose her, and then it says that she won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. And it says that in Esther 2:14 and 17. Then after he made a huge feast or whatever, feast to like honor her and like, wow, this is my new queen. Everyone, you gotta like bow down to her and stuff now. And then the king appoints this new leader. They call him Haman. I kind of like to think of him as Hitler because I don't know. He just reminds me of like the ugly, scary dude. And then one day, Mordecai, which was her uncle, he discovered two guards like thinking about a plot to overthrow the king because they didn't like him. And then when Mordecai found out, he told Esther to tell the king. And when the king found out, he was so happy that he appointed Mordecai as one of his servants in his palace. And then, after he appointed Haman or Hitler to a high position, Haman wanted everyone to bow down to him. And then the only person that didn't bow down to him, like even Esther, the king, everybody, the only person who did it was Mordecai. And it says he was so enraged that he didn't want to take his fury out on only Mordecai, but on every Jew through all the provinces and states of his country. And then it says, Haman said that they did not follow, like whenever he was trying to influence the king to get rid of these people and like assassinate them all, it says that Haman said that they did not follow the rules according to the king and only follow the laws of God. And he told the king, oh, and if you allow, I will destroy them. And he bribed him with a lot of silver. And after the king agreed, he signed it with his ring, which I think of like the little seal on the nail. Yeah. And then it says that this letter went to all the provinces between India and Ethiopia where the king had reigned. And it said on the 13th day of the 12th month, they would annihilate all Jews, including children, women, and men. Mordecai sent this news to Esther, and she kept giving excuses about how she can't show up to the king. She was like, oh, if I can't just choose whenever I want to come to the king, he has to call me. And if I do it, like serious things could happen. And it just showed that like she didn't want to take control and help her people out, because for me it feels like, oh, just because I'm the queen, I won't get assassinated or anything. And then Mordecai later tells her in a message that he says this in Esther 4:13 and 14. He says, don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen just for a time like this? And I feel like this is talking about purpose and taking like control and doing what God like has for you, and not just to waste what He has given you. For example, like I feel like God has put the talent of music in my life, and for a long time I used to be scared. Oh, what if like my voice cracks or like something happens while I'm performing? And for a long time I let these lies that the devil told me just control everything that I thought in my life, and I wasted like over 5 years just thinking, oh, everyone's gonna judge me if I do this wrong. I'm not good enough, and all these lies the devil told me like kept me from doing what I needed to do during this time that He called me. And then this is what Mordecai tells Esther about the plan to save the Jews. And then she responds to this, finally accepting the plan. It says, "Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go and see the king. If I must die, I must die." It says, so Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. So after this, Esther wanted to prepare a feast so she could tell the king and Haman and all them like what her thing was, and kind of expose Haman and his plot against the Jews. And then a little before the feast, Haman was all happy. But when he saw Mordecai not bowing to him again, he became enraged, and he didn't stand up because he didn't stand up or respect him. And with the help of his wives, he plotted a way to kill Mordecai by impaling him through a 75-foot tall pole at the feast through Esther. And then Esther later she reveals Haman's plan at the feast about wanting to kill Mordecai and all the Jews. And then what the king does, he was so angry at what Haman's plot was to kill Mordecai that he sends Haman to be killed on the 75-foot tall pole that he had made for Mordecai, which I find is very ironic. And then Esther, after she finally tells like all these different things to the king, oh, Haman's plot was this, he says, okay, I agree with you that this shouldn't happen, but that there's a decree, there's a law that whatever the king like says, it cannot be revoked or taken back. So Mordecai gave the king an idea that allows the Jews to fight back against whenever they were supposed to be annihilated. And then it says here, on the end of the day, the Jews were victorious and killed over 75,000 enemies, and Haman's 10 sons were impaled just like he was. And a national holiday was made every year to celebrate the victory of the Jews against Haman's plot. All right, I would like for you guys to close your eyes with me. And God, we just thank you for this time that we're having today, God. And just help us to have faith, God, like Esther did in the times where even though everything was going wrong, God, she still believed, God. God, we just want to thank you for this, God, and just help us to realize what your purpose is in our lives, and God, and us to take control of this purpose, God, and not let what the devil